and welcome to Your Right on Trust TV, the program where we break down the law so you can understand it better and protect your rights. I'm your host, Hawa Usman, and today we'll be talking about something that affects every one of us, the rights of communities to sustainable development. Sustainable development is not just a fancy term for the United Nations. It is about your community having the right to grow, thrive, and prosper without destroying the environment or leaving anyone behind. From oil-producing communities to farming villages facing mining projects, to urban neighborhoods dealing with pollution, all these rights matter. To help us understand these rights and the legal remedies available, we have with us today Barrister Al-meen Abubakar, a legal expert, an environmental law expert, and a human rights advocate who has worked extensively on community rights and environmental justice. Welcome, Barrister Al-meen.
Thank you very much.
So before we delve into today's important discussion, let's hear what some Nigerians are saying about their experience with community and sustainable development.
It is the right of every citizen to demand what is rightfully theirs under the Constitution. It must be entrenched under the Constitution. There are some rights that you demand and they are rightful, and there are some that are against the law. So they have the right to demand for that sustainable development which has been given to them under the law, which is available for them under the law.
Every good citizen is supposed to have access to good road, electricity, and and every other thing. Yes, as an citizen, you should have access to it because these are our rights. So on the contrary, we shouldn't pay for anything because we are Nigerians and everything has been paid for. So we should have access to it. On no account should we even pay extra fee for all these things.
Yes, they have the right for good road and also electricity. Why? Because they are also a citizen of Nigeria. So all those things are really free for us. And secondly, again, is also good for, like, the water is also good for our hygiene. And so they are free in other resources anyway.
I'm back. So, Barrister Al-meen.
Yes.
Let's begin from the basics. What exactly is community and sustainable development? And what are those laws in Nigeria that guide this particular right?
When we talk about sustainable development, generally it means how much we use our environment, how much we use our resources for our benefit, and at the same time looking at the interest of our generations yet unborn, particularly as regards three thematic areas. That is the environment, the social well-being of the society or the particular community, and then the economic well-being of the community. So as we are using our resources, we have to take into cognizance how these things continue to exist, how the community continue to enjoy these things until whatever happens to those different generations. But it should not be as a result of our actions, as a result of our exploitation of these resources that is causing harm to
at the detriment of
the future generation. Yes.
So could that be said to be the wise use of the environment and the resources that the environment has to offer to us in such a manner that it doesn't affect the future generations' opportunity and ability to also use the same resources?
Yes, you can put it that way. You can put it that way. Somebody might think, well, we have the resources, we have oil, we have gold, we can just dig it and make use of it. But then by the time you dig it, you make use of it, you create problems in fact, some of the problems, the immediate community begin to experience them, but they get worse as generation shifts. Some generations will not even know why they are suffering, but it's because there were some irresponsible generations in the past that bequeath the trouble to them. So that is why whatever it is we are doing today, we must have in mind what will come of our generations yet unborn.
So I had asked, I mean, we must have laws within the Nigerian environment that also guide this.
So far, most of the issues are covered under Chapter 3 of the Constitution. Sorry, Chapter 2 of the Constitution. Like Section 20 of the Constitution talks about environment, and Section 14 talks about the welfare of the people. But Chapter 2, unfortunately, does not have legal backing that can be enforced in our courts.
Rights.
Yes. So they are called unenforceable rights, or they are called non-justiciable rights. However, the law has been evolving over time. And so far, the courts are beginning to have innovative way of addressing these non-justiciable rights. I think we took clue from India, and some other. India also has similar provisions that are not justiciable, and we also have those types of rights. So now what the courts do is to look at these rights and relate them with whatever is in Chapter 4. That is as regards the fundamental rights which are not negotiable. So, for example, gas flaring is affecting the environment, affecting the survival of the immediate community and even the future community. So the court now interprets that gas flaring to also violate the right to life of the people and also their right to dignity. So that is how the issues of non-justiciable rights are being interpreted and enforced, because
as
more or less,
basic rights
yes,
of people
more or
to
less,
live
more or
in a
less, yes,
comfortable
they
environment.
affect the basic right of people to live, and even to live with dignity and with their prosperity.
So, as we could say, the legal basis for the right of communities in Nigeria to sustainable development is the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Yes, that is the primary document. There are so many other documents so many other laws. For example, the Petroleum Industry Act, the Nigerian Minerals and Mines Act. They have made various provisions that protect communities where these resources are being exploited. And these protections come from, they cover both the environment and the social well-being and the economic well-being of these societies. For example, under the Nigerian Minerals and Mines Act, there are provisions for community development agreements. Whoever is coming into the community must sign community development agreement on the impact that he's going to give to the community, and this could be the social impact or the economic impact.
Yeah, I'll come back to the contract you have talked about.
Yes.
But before then, I want to know the role that the NESRIA plays in protecting either the community or the environment.
Yes, NESRIA is the agency responsible for protecting the environment, and they have, under the laws, they have sanctions, they have so many other, it's actually a product of several international laws and international provisions which Nigeria is a party to. And in that process, though there are so many challenges and so many problems in terms of enforcement, one of the problems I see is because of the centralization of the agency itself. But then it is almost the primary, just like you say, it is the police as far as environmental factors are concerned. Yes.
So do we not have like a replication of that within the states where such environmental activities can also be taking place?
Ordinarily, some states do have, for example, you find they have Ministry of Environment, and under Ministry of Environment, some of them create other agencies. For example, you see some agencies that take care of waste disposal and some other things. So they are there, and to a large extent, they are doing what they can, but the environment deserves far, far more.
Okay, you had talked about international organizations, international charters. What are such some international treaties, such as the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, does it apply to Nigerian communities? Because I know this is an internationally recognized charter that most countries or states or nation states, as it were, also use to protect the rights of their citizens.
Yes, Nigeria has domesticated the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and it has positive provisions as regards the right to a decent environment and some other related rights. Though part of the problem is we have problem of awareness and so many other factors, and even sometimes lack of trust and lack of confidence between the citizens and those responsible for enforcing enforcing the law, for example. So, but ordinarily, even if it is just the African Charter on Human and People's Rights applied strictly, it will go a long way in protecting the environment. And by the time you combine it with the provisions of NESRIA and so many other things, you will see that the environment will be better off than what we are seeing today.
You've talked about contracts.
Yes.
That communities can engage into community development contracts with corporations or organizations that come to explore or exploit, I don't know which one exactly, the environment for the resources that are available. So what role does the local government community or the local government itself plays in enforcing this contractual agreement and ensuring that corporations or organizations are held accountable for such promises?
Directly, the law did not make any provision for the local government to play a direct role. However, there are so many other ways the local government can come in. For example, there is provision for obtaining consent for anybody applying for any license, consent from the community. Now, the local governments ordinarily are supposed to sensitize their communities, also spearhead the interests of those communities whenever consent is being given, and also when this agreement is being entered into. The community development agreement requires the contribution of the community heads, that is traditional heads, youth organizations in the community, women organizations in the community, market organizations, and so many. They need to have representatives that will come together and face these corporations in order to get maximum benefit from the community development agreement. Because whenever there is any exploitation of mineral resources in a particular environment, it changes a lot of things in the community. It changes their trade, it changes their demography, it changes so many things. Sometimes those communities experience rapid increase in their population. Sometimes they suffer, their existing trade suffers. And at many times
like
they have to migrate.
In Niger Delta.
Exactly.
I know this is
because of the oil spillage and so many things. Farmers cannot farm, fishermen can no longer get fishes. So many things. Some of them, they have to get other trades for their survival. And in the process of that, you really, really need to come up with a community development agreement that will put that interests in perspective. But in reality, does that happen? So
so you've talked about the lack of awareness. Probably, maybe it doesn't happen because a lot of communities don't even know that they're supposed to engage with some of these corporations to come up with the contractual agreement. But apart from having to engage and come up with the agreement, are there no obligations, legally binding obligations against these corporations to act or to provide such community development, even without the contractual agreement?
There are.
With the community
There are. Part of it is that, for example, you are not even entitled to a license until you settle these issues, until you settle the issue of consent, which is also a global issue, that is free, prior, and informed consent from the community. And also the community development agreement should also be neatly spelled out. And also the environmental impact assessment, then environmental reclamation program of environmental protection and reclamation program. Also, all these things need to be filed before you obtain licenses. However, if you look at it on the other side, the federal governments want investment, the federal governments wants money to come out of these corporations. So sometimes you find out these laws are being relaxed, sometimes they are being relaxed for the purpose of the benefits that the federal government will get out of these things, unfortunately. So it's in between the devil and the deep blue sea for the government, and it's not always only in Nigeria. Recently, Canada, Ontario to be specific, they were having this issue with the tariffs by Trump and so many things. So they passed a law whereby many of these environmental factors were almost suspended. Not completely suspended, but they were made at the discretion of the government. The enforcement and everything was made absolutely at the discretion of the government because they want the investment in their mineral resources to be rapid and what have you. So the same thing, though in Nigeria, we've not made that kind of law, but in practice, you see that we are gradually tilting towards that. And it's a very dangerous and steepy slope if we continue to grow down that line, because before you know it, communities will completely lose their means of livelihood. They will lose the water, even the potable water they drink.
Yeah.
This environmental, this exploitation of mineral resources, they affect all these things. They affect the weather, they affect the water that is being used, and they affect the crops and even the animals that live around that area, and even the human beings. Their health is always at risk because of these factors. So there are laws to enforce these rights, but then they are being relaxed, honestly, in practice.
Yeah, just hold your thought. We're still talking about the accountability of corporations and organizations.
Yes.
We'll take a short break. You're still watching You're Right on Trust TV. And when we come back from this short break, our discussion continues.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back. Thank you, Barrister. Yes, just to add, so we've talked about accountability because organizations, corporations must be held accountable. So, but how can communities hold these companies accountable for environmental degradation? And are these companies legally obligated to rehabilitate the land, for instance, if they carry out mining or oil exploration?
First of all, how do these communities hold these corporations accountable? You see, the part of the problem is that sometimes you even get saboteurs from among the community that will tend to compromise, tell the community one thing and then go and tell the corporations one thing, and so many other things. So first of all, every community that wants to get their rights from any of these corporations, they have to take unity very seriously. They have to be first united, have a common front, identify what their issues are and what the solutions to those issues are. Then they face these corporations. They should face them with knowledge and their unity. So once they face them, you begin to see that, because to be honest, these corporations, they make the profit, they have the money to actually do these basic things, but human greed, in many instances, there are few corporations that actually go extra mile to ensure that the communities remain comfortable with the situation. But there are those that take their profits far more important than any other thing. So you see, even though there are several researches around the world that have shown that it is not even wise for you as an investor, as a corporation, exploiting mineral resources and then neglecting the community.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day,
corporate social responsibility is one of those things that makes corporations look responsible. Even
if it is for your greed, even if it is for the greed that they are talking about, it is more sustainable for you to continue to appease the community.
And get their cooperation.
Because you end up lasting longer in your business. Sometimes once trouble starts, once there is abject poverty and people don't have anything to lose in this they don't have anything to lose. They get to do anything, and at the end of the day, the operations of these companies is halted. Yes, the operations of these companies is halted. The exploitation of the mineral resources, everything stopped. And you see, at the end of the day, after a prolonged time, some of the equipments will not even be serviceable. So at the end of the day, you see, the companies are not even wise, those that try to neglect or abdicate from their corporate social responsibility. Yes. So the communities should face these people with with a clear objective. And if there is any disputes or anything, there are many places where these disputes can be resolved. First of all, for example, under the Nigerian Minerals and Mining Act, there is the MIREMCO. It's a committee that is in every state that is responsible for taking some of these immediate community versus corporations disputes, and they address them timely. And once, if they are above,
like a mediation,
kind of thing, yes,
avenue,
yes. And in many instances, if they cannot resolve, they refer to the minister for resolution of some of these disputes.
So there are circumstances where agencies or some government organizations, maybe when report is carried to them regarding some kind of violations, and they don't take this issue seriously. Are there penalties that exist for such government officials or agencies who fail to uphold such kind of violations or report about violations?
Well, there are different, for example, there are public servants, civil servants, so they have the rules for their discipline and what have you. So one can take that route, but I think if, for example, I'm representing any community, it will be easier for me to face the immediate problem of the community. If at all I don't get justice from the agency responsible for doing what it's supposed to do, then the next thing, you go to court and find a lasting solution to any particular problem. That is, it is said that the court is the last hope of the common man. So you go there and find justice, and in certain instances, you can make some of those government agencies to be parties in whatever suit that you want to, whatever.
Especially because at the end of the day, when there is need to enforce any outcome from the courts, then such government agencies might be the people responsible for enforcing it. Yes,
if, for example, you are seeking an order to compel the agency to carry a particular thing, so you see some of these agencies will have to be a party. In your claim.
Yeah. So to my final question now.
Yes.
What legal reforms do you think are needed to strengthen this community rights to sustainable development?
Interestingly, I am of the strong opinion that our laws to a large extent are sufficient, to a very large extent. There could be a few panel beating here and there, but let us even enforce the laws as they are. Let us have absolute enforcement, or even if it is 90 to 95% enforcement. The present Minister of Mines is doing well in that regard, in trying to see that some of these laws that have been neglected for a very long time are now being enforced to a large extent, but there is still so much room for improvement. Yes. So there is presently an amendment of the Nigerian Minerals and Mining Act at the National Assembly, though it is taking some time. I'm part of the technical committee for the amendments of the law, where some of the things that we are considering are, for example, there should be a particular percentage of the company profit that will directly go to the community. Either we are looking at it whether it should be profit or it should be the expenditure of that company, particularly maybe like 5% or thereabout, that will go directly to the community for the benefit of the community. So if these things are there, it will be easier for the community. If, for example, they go to court, they can say, okay, bring the books. What are your books saying? This is this profit you made, and this is what you did. What is the total amount of how much you spent? Yes, so you see, it gives a defined right. Now, if you just go to court, you can just say they did not sign community development agreement with us. So they can say, okay, come, let us sign. They sign, and then whatever happened in the past is gone because it cannot be mathematically determined. So, but with this amendment, if it eventually scales through, so it's going to give us a direct clarity on what the community should be entitled.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Pastor
you.
Al-meen, for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you very much.
This is the most we can take.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barrister Al-meen, for sharing your insights. And to our listeners, remember, knowing your rights is the first step in defending them. Join us next week on Your Rights as we discuss another important legal issue affecting your daily life. I am Hawa Usman, and this has been Your Right on Trust TV. Until next time, stay informed and stay empowered.